There are many fantastic ground meat dishes from around the world, such as the Greek keftedes, the Russian veal pajarski, the English shepherd's pie, and we're going to make one of the most wonderful American versions, our simple meatloaf. So I'd like to show you the ingredients. We have today ground beef mixed with ground turkey. We're using the Pat LaFrida mix, which I love because it has short ribs and it has brisket and it has chuck. But you could use a combination of veal, pork, and beef if you prefer, or simply just beef. Then we have our carrots, onions, and celery, known as our mirepoix, as well as garlic and shallots. We're going to chop all this up very fine into a cut called brunoise, which is very, very fine dice. Then we have our eggs, which we'll use to bind our meatloaf. We have butter that we'll use to saute our mirepoix, our carrots, onions, and celery, and our garlic and shallots. Then we have heavy cream, which lends beautiful richness to the meatloaf, as well as some breadcrumbs to also help in binding. Then we have our fresh herbs, sage, chiffonade basil, which is a fine julienne of any leaf vegetable. We have fresh chopped parsley, which is really the anchor for all of our other herbs. We have fresh rosemary. We're using some dry oregano today, which it's okay to mix dry with the fresh, and the parsley will help liven up that mixture if you have to use dry herbs. We have fresh thyme as well. And we have fresh cracked pepper, which is always nice to use fresh cracked. It's so aromatic and much better than the ground pepper. And we have the ever-present pink Himalayan salt, which is very popular right now. Then we have the great condiment ketchup, which is really perfectly suitable to coating a meatloaf and enables us to get a nice caramelization as we bake that in the oven. So now I'm going to show you step by step exactly how to assemble our meatloaf. So as usual, we're going to start our mise en place by cutting up our garlic and shallots. And the easiest way to peel your garlic is to smash it like that. And then we like to start by slicing very thin. And you'll go slow, but speed will come. First we slice it very thin. And we're going to mince that garlic. Next we're going to do our shallots. And the same as the garlic, we want to start by slicing the shallot as thin as we can. Don't forget to keep your hand in that position like the claw, like we're scratching with a knife against that knuckle. Next, we're going to cut our onion. When you want to mince an onion fine, it's important to first cut as many times as you can horizontally, and then we're going to cut vertically as well. So if we're going to mince an onion, we don't need to do any additional chopping. Keep the tip down, cut all the way to the back. And you notice I have my fingers curled like I'm scratching. I call it the claw so that we don't cut ourselves. We keep the thumb behind and our fingers curled. And as you can see, we have a nice minced onion without any additional chopping. When we cut a fine brunoise, we would like to cut the celery down a little bit like this first so that we can get it very, very fine. So we're going to cut it first like this. So that we can get it very, very small. Our brunoise, which is a very, very fine dice. Or if we had to do a fine julienne, this is exactly how we do our fine julienne. Next, we're going to do our carrots. And to do a brunoise of carrot, we're going to do the same. We're going to cut it very thin first into a fine julienne. So that we can make our brunoise. The next step is to saute our mirepoix. So we put our fresh butter into the pan and we're allowing that to clarify. So we wait until we see that the butter is foaming, And that's going to give us a little nice brown butter taste called beurre noisette in French, or hazelnut butter. So once we see that that has clarified, we're going to add in our mirepoix. And we're going to saute our mirepoix until translucent. If we don't saute it enough, it would leak moisture into the meatloaf. So we have to make sure that our vegetables are cooked before we add them to the meat mixture. So we have that on high flame. We're not going to brown the mirepoix, but we are going to sweat it. And we're going to also put in at the same time our garlic and shallots. And we're going to sweat that all together. So we get translucent vegetables and a beautiful aroma that we get from our sauteed garlic and shallot and our mirepoix. So our mirepoix is perfectly sauteed. One thing that's really important to expanding the flavor of our herbs is to add our herbs right to our warm mirepoix. It's not good to fry the fresh herbs, but it is good to warm them in the mirepoix. It brings out the flavor and will expand the flavor so that it really complements our meatloaf. And if you were here in the room right now, you would smell the beautiful aroma from all of those fresh herbs mixed into our warm sauteed carrots, onions, shallots, garlic, celery, and we just mix all that together. We don't want to fry the herbs, we just want to warm them to expand their flavor. Now we're ready to assemble our meatloaf. So our mirepoix and our herbs that we sauteed, we want to let them cool down a little bit. We don't want to mix them hot into the meat. So we've put them in the fridge for 15 or 20 minutes. Again, we have our carrots, onions, and celery along with our shallots, garlic, and all of our fresh herbs. And we're going to mix that into the meat. And we're going to add our eggs. And we're going to add our heavy cream. And we're going to mix this together. I'm going to add the breadcrumbs in a moment once we have all the meat, the cream, the eggs all mixed together. We don't want to overmix our meatloaf, so we wait until we have all of our ingredients mixed. Then we're going to add in our breadcrumbs. I'm going to mix that together. And then finally, we're going to season with salt and pepper. And then we're going to form our meatloaf. So I'm going to take off my gloves now. And we're going to season with salt and pepper. Again, we like our fresh cracked pepper. In the interest of saving time, I added some already. So you see what I'm adding, but you add about double that, and the same with the salt. So I added a little bit before, and I'm adding a little more now. And then we're going to form our meatloaf for baking. Now we're going to shape our meatloaf and get it ready to go into the oven. So we have all our meat and breadcrumbs and cream, our mirepoix, our beautiful fresh herbs, and now we want to shape our meatloaf. It's important to pack it a little bit because you don't want the meatloaf to break open when it's cooking. So it is important first, of course, to shape it, but also to pack it. We want it to cook uniformly, and we want to be able to slice it nicely. And the easiest way to shape it properly is have a little ice water on hand and dip your hands in the ice water, and that's going to enable you to get a nice smooth surface on your meatloaf. Take your time shaping it. Again, you want to pack it a little bit. Use the water to smooth the surface. And make a nice shaped loaf. Again, it's really important that it be uniform and that the meat be packed together so that when it's cooking, it's going to stay together. And when you slice it, you're going to have nice uniform slices without the meatloaf falling apart. So once we get it nice and smooth like this, again, using the cold water, you can see, get a nice smooth surface. And then we're going to top it with our ketchup. It's going to caramelize during cooking. And we're going to cook that at about 325 degrees for 40 minutes. So now we're going to add our ketchup on the surface and do a nice thick layer. It really complements the meatloaf beautifully. So I'm putting on quite a bit, and take a knife to smooth that out. And make sure that you cover the sides. As well as the top. And then we're going to get that into the oven. Beautiful. So let's review for a moment. We had our finely ground meat. Could be veal, pork, and beef. Could be turkey and beef, whatever you prefer. And we chopped our herbs very, very fine. Thyme, parsley, basil, rosemary, salt and pepper, a little bit of sage. We had our mirepoix of carrots, onions, and celery that we added minced garlic and minced shallots. We sauteed our mirepoix with the garlic and shallot until translucent. Then we added our fresh herbs in to expand the flavor. We cooled them down. Then we added them to our mixed different meats. And we added our heavy cream, our eggs. And once the heavy cream and the eggs were combined, we added our breadcrumbs. Now we formed our meatloaf, and we're going to put it in the oven. And in about 45 minutes, we're going to have a beautiful American meatloaf. So here we have our meatloaf. This cooked for 1 hour at 325 degrees. Beautiful caramelization of the ketchup on the surface, and it's cooked inside perfectly. We don't want to overcook it because it's going to lose its juice. So we're going to cut a portion now. And we'll use a little bit of pan gravy. That we'll put on the plate. We call that a cordon of sauce. And we're going to put our meatloaf on there. We're going to clean up our plate a little bit. Just want to make sure our guests have a beautiful clean plate. And a little bit of parsley on top. And we have, for a little garnish, some carrots. Cut in a Japanese style. And let's put a sprig of rosemary. A little bit of parsley. And there we have it. American meatloaf. Enjoy.